Hi guys, so the people who were conned into supporting something that would damage Britain are angry once again. Nigel Farage, Suella Braverman, Priti Patel and other Brexiteers are up in arms over a slight change in the relationship between the UK and the EU that the Prime Minister has delivered. However, while immigration wasn't part of this agreement, those who voted leave to kick out foreigners are of course upset with what they've been told is a betrayal. Here James O'Brien put one such voter back in his box. Wonderful stuff, enjoy this.
What would I have done?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a politician. That's not my expertise.
No, but if you don't have a view on that...
I would certainly have sealed the borders up.
Apart from somehow sealing our borders, when I ask you what you could or what any politician could have done differently, you've got nothing.
I haven't got nothing. I'm
Go
not
on,
an
then.
expert on how I would seal the borders.
No, but let's forget about sealing the borders and talk about how Brexit could have gone better.
Sealing the borders is not the right word.
Well, I think they were yours. Apart from immigration, how could Brexit have gone better?
Apart from immigration?
Yeah.
By having control of your own country, which I wouldn't know whether we have or not, and not being ruled by Europe.
In what way? Give me an example of that, would you?
I can't give you an example.
Does that not embarrass you?
I am slightly embarrassed because I'm not an expert. I'm
Do you know who else isn't an expert on this?
You.
No, I am. Ask me anything. Every single person who's encouraged you to support Brexit, there's not a single expert among them, and yet you're still trusting them instead of the people who are being proved right about everything. And I hear the chuckle, and that means that you're not someone who's been desperately affected by Brexit. You're not someone whose business has been shut down. You're someone who lies awake in bed in Middlesex having weird dreams about immigrants. You're not someone who's had...
You're very rude to me, aren't you?
Well, I am very rude to you, yes, because of what you've done to my country.
What I've done.
And now you're here to tell me you've got no clue about anything.
What have I done? I voted for Brexit. It was 51% against 49%.
You voted for Brexit and you still cling to the carcass that it could somehow have gone well. And apart from making life difficult for people who don't look like you, you haven't got a single clue what that means, what you want, or how you'd go about getting it. So how on earth, Richard, could I not be rude to you?
Well, a lot of people are rude to me because I've got very strong views on certain things.
No, it's not because you've got very strong views, Richard. It's because you can't explain a single one of them.
Well said. So well said. You know, Richard is the type of person, and, you know, there are limits to compassion for the conned, contempt for the con man. The compassion has limits. But Richard is the type of person who believed Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg back in 2016. Believed the tripe that they were pushing and ignored the experts, people who actually knew what they were talking about. And then it became a disaster. And now it's, well, you know, if Nigel Farage had been in charge, we would have got a better Brexit. Brexit was betrayed. We didn't have the right people in charge. This was the same rhetoric we were hearing when Theresa May was Prime Minister. Well, you know, she didn't truly believe in Brexit, so she was replaced with Boris Johnson, somebody who truly believed in Brexit. Of course, there were some people who said he betrayed Brexit. He lined himself up with Nigel Farage, both of them working together to make sure that Johnson got an 80-seat majority, celebrations on Brexit Day, and then 5 minutes later, Boris Johnson and David Frost were trashing their own agreement, saying it needed to go in the bin, or it was the EU that tricked them into negotiating a terrible deal, or it was Theresa May's fault, or something like that. And now people like Richard are no doubt throwing their support behind who? Behind experts? No, behind Nigel Farage. The same guy who sold the people the lie in the first place. Reform are doing really well in the polls. Reform are doing extremely well when it comes to the local elections. They've done really well there. Why? Because people are angry about immigration. Immigration was supposed to come down because of the promises Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson made. But it went up. And people like Richard are backing Nigel Farage and reform once again. I said on a number of occasions that there should have been an independent committee or body set up to provide people with transparent information about the referendum. About, okay, what would happen if we voted leave? What would happen if we vote remain? But instead, politicians got involved. And politicians were able to use their platforms, unchallenged, to spew all types of rubbish. Nigel Farage has not apologised for Brexit. He has not apologised to companies who are struggling to export into the single market. He hasn't apologised to companies who can't access the workers they need to expand their businesses. Boris Johnson the same. Jacob Rees-Mogg the same. So the people who lied about Brexit and the consequences of Brexit are, in the case of Nigel Farage, being put in a position where he could become Prime Minister one day. There's no punishment for lies. And people like Richard, angry with James O'Brien because he's holding up a mirror. He's saying, this is what you have done. And you have made the situation worse. Why? Well, because you are angry about immigrants. And you're still, no doubt, angry about immigrants. And you'll still vote for people like Nigel Farage. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.